Hey there everyone, Paller here, and welcome back. Yes, you might have noticed there was still no intro video. I haven't recreated that yet, but with this week I am going to be getting back to the traditional formula for the Sunday video. Today we're going to be taking a look at Prison Architect. This is a prison tycoon game that released on October 6th. However, I've been playing it off and on for over a year now. Prison Architect, in my opinion, is a great example of early access done correctly. When the game first rolled out in early access, I picked it up a month or so later, and it was already a pretty good working platform. The base mechanics were there, and over the last year or so, they've gone ahead and they've just fleshed out the systems, refined everything, tuned it up, and improved the gameplay overall. Before the game even released, I'd put in roughly 60 hours in this game, so it's fairly safe to say I very much enjoy this game. I called it a tycoon game because to me it very much fits that wave of tycoon style games that rolled out into the early to mid 2000s. Most notably is Roller Coaster Tycoon, but there was also Railroad, Hospital, Airport, and many others. Like those games, you're basically given a sandbox and the tools in which to build a functioning whatever. In this case, it's a prison. It's nothing really revolutionary, but the prison aspect does bring around some interesting gameplay aspects. Most notably, unlike most of those games I mentioned, you don't have visitors who, if they're unhappy, will just leave. Instead, you have prisoners who can't leave, but they will try. And if living conditions for them are really bad, they're going to try to kill each other or your staff members. This element adds a bit more depth to the formula, forcing one to be a bit more strategic in their planning and building. You can't just go in and build 300 cells to hold prisoners if you don't have the showers, dining facilities, exercise yard, and other necessities for them to live. This added depth doesn't come without its own drawbacks, however. Because of budget limits and the needs of the prisoners, most prisons always start off looking about the same. You only have so much money to build at the beginning of the game. So you're going to end up with a small cafeteria, a small shower, a small yard, a few holding cells, and not much more. This will get you running and allow you to start building larger complex. But at some point, you're going to get to a break point where you either need to build a whole new cafeteria, set of showers and that, or tear down your current one and expand them notably. There's no unlimited money sandbox type mode where you can just go in and from the very start, just go nuts and create the absolute perfect prison. The game does have a bit of a workaround for this. Basically, at any time, you can sell off your current prison. So say you go in, you play the game for 3 or 4 hours, you get a prison up and running for about 100 prisoners. Rather than going through and tearing it down or restructuring it all or starting a new expansion, you can basically just sell this prison off and you'll get like $500,000. That $500,000 then will be in your account when you create a new prison. So where normally you only have $20,000 or $30,000 to create a prison, you now have $530,000, allowing you to create a much grander prison right from the start. You can then spend 3 or 4 hours with this prison, get it up to say 300,000 people, sell it off for 1.5 million, and then start a whole new one. So there is a workaround for it. I do think a pure sandbox mode with unlimited money would have been nice. Gameplay-wise, Prison Architect has a surprising amount of depth. The game has a lot of tools for some very heavy micromanagement. You can set things from your prisoner's schedule, which cafeteria they eat at, where they get their uniforms resupplied from. You can deploy guards to certain areas or set them on a patrol route. You can adjust the punishment for different infractions that the prisoners might get in. For example, you can set how long they'll be punished for contraband or for fighting. There are also several different types of prisoners determined by the security levels. You have minimum, medium, maximum, supermax, death row, and I forget the other one. You can then designate sections of your prison to only accommodate certain security levels of prisoners. For example, you can have an entire wing of your prison designated for nothing but maximum security, and they have their own cells, cafeteria, etc. Because in some cases, you're not going to want your minimum security and your maximum security interacting together. Having them showering at the same time might be a good way to get a minimum security guy shanked. The game also has a surprising amount of personality. Beyond the art style, which is going to be subjective, though I do personally like it, there's a great amount of backstories in the game. Most of the characters you're going to get are just going to be generic, such and such who is in jail for X number of years for arson, assault, murder, whatever. But then there's like 300 handcrafted characters that have their own stories behind them. And they're small, but basically the developers went and they created characters for their friends or their families, and they gave them all personal names, and then just little funny stories. I read one about a guy who got mad at his neighbors because his neighbor's dog was crapping in his yard and the neighbor wouldn't clean up, so the guy started crapping in his neighbor's yard, and he got arrested for it. It didn't add much to the game, but I thought it was a nice little touch. It made me chuckle, and there's quite a few of these. The game does have a short campaign, which works like a tutorial system. It's made up of 5 missions and goes over most of the basic mechanics of the game. The campaign also has a social commentary message in it. It attempts to address some of the concerns with the American prison system and how many of them are run by for-profit companies. I'm not getting into that aspect of it. I'm just letting you know it is there. And while I did overall like the campaign and the story it told, it does have a few problems. Mainly, it doesn't tell you all of the things it needs to. It doesn't do a good enough job as a tutorial. There were parts of it, the game I was still figuring out 60 hours after I started playing, and I only learned them by going to the wiki. For example, one of the major needs your prisoners have is it's just labeled family, and it's basically communication with their loved ones. And the main way this is handled is 2 different methods, either telephones or visitation tables. The tables are pretty easy, you just plop them down, designate an area as visitation, and throughout the day, their family will come in and they can sit down and talk to their family. The more common one is the telephone. Throughout all of my prisons in the first 60 hours, I was constantly having trouble with riots because my prisoners weren't getting satisfied on their family level. And I could never figure out why. I had phones everywhere. I even went so far as to put a phone in every individual cell, and I couldn't correct this problem. Through Google, I found out that the only works if your phones are in either the common room or in the yard. And I was just putting my phones randomly along walls, and it wasn't working. As soon as I put my phones in the yard, boom, instantly they got used, instantly they went down. All of a sudden I had no more riots, and I could grow my prison with no problem at all. Things like this, the tutorial really should tell you. It should be a little more obvious, and that's only one. There's been 4 or 5 different things I've had to go to Google to find out. It's quite an unfortunate oversight that I hope they correct and can really improve the game quite a bit by just fleshing out the tutorial a little bit more. When the game released, we were actually surprised. We found out there was a completely new game mode called Escape Mode. In this mode, you end up becoming just some random prisoner in any prison that you want. So one of the prisons that you've saved, you load that up, and you're a random prisoner in that, and your objective is to escape. I know, surprising, right? And you can do this several different ways, like tunneling out or breaking through, and just taking out guards, stealing the keys. There's some different options to do it. The gameplay is Hotline Miami-esque, WASD move, attack with left mouse button. You can pick up items, hide items, do different things within the game. I didn't play this all that much. I put maybe 2 hours into it. It wasn't what I was looking for. Now, I don't really hold it against the game all that much because I didn't buy Prison Architect for this. I would buy Hotline Miami if this is what I wanted. So it's just like the multiplayer for BioShock, where, okay, it's something that's there. I'm not interested in it, but it might be something you want to look at. My only big complaint about the game is the lack of tutorials for some of the items. That is a definite negative, does cause some problems with the game. You shouldn't have to go Googling an issue in order to figure out why a certain mechanic won't work within the game. But at the end of the day, I do really like this game, as I said at the very beginning. And I think if you're someone that enjoys those tycoon-style games, I think this is a fairly safe buy. The game has a lot of depth and a lot of complexity to it. That extra layer added by the prisoner system does require a bit more involvement from the player. You must be a little more proactive when you play this game over, say, Roller Coaster Tycoon or many of the other Tycoon games. I do think the asking price might be a little too steep. You figure they're asking $30 for the game, and roughly 35 days after this game releases, Fallout 4 is coming out. Before this game even came out, Metal Gear Solid 5 came out, Witcher 3 came out. Is this worth half the cost of either of those games? Probably not. I know personally, yeah, I've gotten $30 of value out of the game, but you have to look at market saturation. You have to take into account where you're at. Coming out in October as a holiday release game, I just think they're asking too much with $30. While I do very much enjoy this game, I highly recommend it. If you like those Tycoon style games, you see it for $12 to $15, I would absolutely recommend picking it up. There's a few small problems with it, but overall, it's a very, very good game with a unique theme that we haven't really seen too much before. Yes, I know there was a Prison Tycoon game, but that thing sucked, so let's not talk about that. And I think that about covers it. If you've played Prison Architect, let me know what you think down below. Have you tried escape mode? What do you think of that? And if you liked this video, I'd ask for a thumbs up. Until next time, this has been Paller. Thanks for watching.